Do you think you would feel more secure in a state where guns are prohibited? What are your reasons for your opinion? Realistically, most people who own guns aren't crazy. I'd be more concerned with the overall level of violence where I'm at than anything else. And I'm a progressive Democrat, so I'm not some kind of right-winger. The country has become less and less violent throughout my life. Don't let the news, social media screw with your perception. You most likely aren't going to be shot just from a statistical point of view. I'm much more afraid of political persecution from a right-wing government in the near future than I am of random citizens of any political background who happen to have guns. Prohibiting firearms is meaningless when criminals don't follow the law. I live in Vermont and we had very low gun crime. It's like the last few years. But most of it is out of state. Criminals who brought guns with them and then committed crimes here. So our gun laws have become more strict. But it's not accomplishing anything because it's not the locals who buy guns legally breaking the law. It's drug dealers from New York and Massachusetts coming here and murdering each other. The state could prohibit the sale and even ownership of firearms and it wouldn't change anything. I hate that I say yes. I just get paranoid because I have a daughter. I do look around in public places and make an exit plan if need. How would I protect her if someone came in and started shooting up? Where would we go and what would we do? I feel the worrying about these things. There was a lockdown at a friend's school last year because of a threat. My kid's school's security changed after a shooting last year. I hate being paranoid, but I wish the option to have guns was limited. No one needs that much power. It's scary how quickly it can do so much damage. Not necessarily. People who wish to do very bad things will still have them. Banning guns in a state doesn't mean they all go poof into thin air. There are more ways to buy guns than just walking into a gun shop firearms dealer. I live in a state where everyone and their grandmother own firearms. We don't have violent crime in our area. Small sample size, absolutely. But I like the ability to own a firearm, whether it be for personal use at a gun range, or in the event I ever need it for protection. I don't even conceal carry in a state where it's permitless. I own guns because I like to shoot. They're in a locked safe in a locked room. I have kids. If I needed them to protect my house or family, I'd be dead first. I feel safe in my neighborhood. And when I'm in the hood, it's a personal decision. In my opinion, violent crime rates are very low everywhere in the US. Side note, my dogs are very intimidating and would be a good deterrent for criminals. I'd still want to live in a gun state because I like to shoot, but it wouldn't affect if I feel safe or not. I felt perfectly safe when I lived in MA. Yes. Just like I would be less likely to be in a car accident in a place with fewer cars. I would be less likely to be involved in a gun incident in a place with fewer guns. Japan has very low gun crime and few gun accidents, and in large part because of strict regulations guns. Australia, UK, even Russia and dozens of other countries have few gun crimes and accidents because gun ownership is tightly controlled and comparatively rare compared to the US. Fewer guns, lower gun crime, fewer gun accidents. So yes, I would feel safer. Why would I feel more safe where guns are prohibited? So some armed thug can break into my house, compromise the safety of my children, and not be able to defend my family from harm. Even in New Jersey, where concealed carry is legal, there's individuals a part of car theft rings that will literally follow you to your house and break into your home, whether it's climbing through the window or kicking down your door. Why? Because they know there's not a damn thing you can do with that weapon without being thrown the book. I live in South Carolina. I don't feel safer knowing that so many of my neighbors have guns. Statistically speaking, the more guns there are, the more deaths are from firearms. No shit. Right? I now try to avoid any negative interaction with people, road rage, etc. for fear some asshole having a bad day will shoot at me. Likely. No. Possible. Yes. More likely in a state like mine. Absolutely. And yes, I'm aware that I am much more likely to be injured in a car accident, orders of magnitude more likely. If the government doesn't want people to have guns, then they should lead by example and give up theirs first. There will never be a state where guns are prohibited because there will always be an anointed few who are allowed to have them, and those people will have a monopoly on violence. Everyone else will have no choice but to comply with the will of the state or die. What scares me is a state that wants a monopoly on violence and a people that trusts that state more than they trust each other. I would feel most unsafe in a state that prohibits the ownership of firearms. It doesn't by any means stop bad people from illegally obtaining and then using firearms, and just removes the way for me to protect myself. By the time I call 911 on someone who's going to shoot me, I will have been dead long before they arrive. If someone is going to hurt my family and I call the police, I will lose everyone before they can respond. Banning guns doesn't stop bad people and creates a vulnerable population. The impact is negligible given how porous the border is between states. Up in Canada, we have an issue with too many guns coming up from the states, where our government doesn't want to do anything to anger our southern neighbor, other than the US. But that's because there is still a border that can restrict the flow of guns to a degree, and I believe a better social safety net, which I think deters people from going down that path. Lived in a house with guns. My neighbors had guns, my teachers had guns, not in the classroom, just in general, etc. I might be biased, however I'm Canadian, so gun owners here aren't likely to accidentally or intentionally shoot me or anything. I don't feel unsafe around them. I don't think about it much. If I lived in the US, I would probably feel less safe knowing anyone could have a concealed firearm and also not know how to use it properly. Normalizing guns means normalizing shooting. If a shooting happened in a hypothetical neighborhood where guns were banned, people would be horrified. Shooters would be treated as outcasts of society because guns aren't a normal thing there, thus discouraging people to use guns. But in another hypothetical place where guns weren't banned, the easiest way to get a gun would be to break into someone's house, take their weapons, and boom, you got a gun. I don't put any thought into it. Someone might have a gun, someone might not. You never know. And even if it's banned, they still might have one. Just look at Chicago. It's not something you can control. There's good people with and without guns, and there's bad people also with and without guns. You never know who is gonna be who. So just live your life. Pay attention, and make good decisions for your own safety. That's really the best you can do. In all honesty, if guns were prohibited, I personally feel that this wouldn't actually improve the situation much. To commit crimes with guns still have ways to get guns illegally. And while it might decrease the total crime rate because some would decide it's too high, I also no longer have a gun to defend myself. Not saying there's no benefit, I just prefer being able to defend myself if needed. LOL. I've lived in Wyoming and I've lived in Massachusetts. Massachusetts was by far safer in almost every area. Not sure how it isn't reflected by statistics. I've never seen a violent crime in Mass. I witnessed several in Wyoming. One was a gun murder. I like guns just as much as the next guy. I owned my own when I was in Wyoming. I grew up shooting, but if you think they actually make people safer, you're delusional. Nope, from South Alabama, and I lean liberal for most things except guns. Guns do not kill people. People kill peep. I grew up in a house, an area where everyone had multiple guns, some had damn near full arsenals, and we never had gun issues. No kid ever got shot on accident, no BS. At the end of the day, if guns are outlawed, who is gonna stop the government and or a criminal from destroying everything you worked for? No more, but certainly less. My dad had his guns securely locked in a cabinet, and for most of my childhood I had no idea they were in there. It was just a weird cabinet that had a big old lock on it, but I must say that once I knew what was in there, the first thought that came to my head was I felt safer knowing my dad had firepower to defend the house. Yes, guns are for pussies, man on man. I can fight a dude, even if he's got a bat or a knife or a machete. I still got a chance. I can outrun him at least. I have better cardio than most. But There's not really anything I can do against someone with a gun. I'd much rather we didn't let any all mentally unstable, insecure, violent jackass have one. I don't feel insecure in a state where firearms aren't prohibited. Even if they were, I'd still have items on me with a defensive aggressive capability equal to or greater than pedestrian means. But that is because from personal experience, any time I had needed the police, EMS for help, they didn't show up till bodily harm had already happened. I live in a state as in country, not US state where guns are reasonably hard to get. Do I feel more secure than when I'm in the US? Yes, because the violent death rate is lower. Is this because of the reduced access to guns? Possibly. Do I need a gun? No. Do I want a gun? I quite like toys, but it seems like a rather expensive hobby. Hell no. Simply because bad people are still going to get them nitrogen monoxide no matter what. There are so many guns in circulation, I have quite a few myself. There is virtually no feasible way that guns would be taken off the streets without a single one left behind. Beyond that, other states are still going to have them. Bans do nothing effectively. There can something to be said about living in an area that encourages and embraces gun ownership. That have very overt to folks, and they're almost fetishistic. And while I might have technically been safer in a rural community with fewer people, I certainly didn't feel safer walking the main street.